Okay, you're on. Jason said good morning.
Okay, looks like we're live.
Yes.
So let me get back to my. Well, let me start out by thanking you all again. We've been on for a few minutes catching up, but I appreciate you all taking the time to join Cynthia and I this morning. And while we were chatting just a minute ago, there were some questions that came up, and I think the really special part of these get-togethers is talking about the real stuff, not just acquiring properties or how many properties is it going to take for me to retire, or whatever your goal is. But this morning I have Karen, Eden, Cynthia, and Michelle with me. So if maybe, Karen, we could start with you. Where in the country are you? Where do you invest? How long have you been investing, and what types of properties do you like to buy?
So I live in Raleigh, North Carolina area, and I invest about an hour and a half east of here, Greenville, North Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina, Greenville, North Carolina area. There's a big university and healthcare system then, so that's why I chose that area. I purchased a townhome there about 3 years ago now. So I only have the one property right now. Just stabilized. It finally got stabilized. The first year was traumatic because I did everything I was, told not to do. But with your first property, you're always just trying to get it rented and cash flowing and such. So the first tenant was a nightmare, unfortunately. Learned a lot of lessons that way, spent a lot of money, but thankfully I have some great tenants in there right now. They just signed a 2-year lease or to an extend 2-year lease. So I'll have them for another 2 years. So excited about that. Raise the rent a little bit. So basically in like stabilization mode, just kind of getting that stable and also building reserves. That's my biggest focus right now. It's slow going, unfortunately. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm older. My 401 is not going to be enough in retirement. Probably have another, how old am I? I'm hoping only 6 or 7 years to go with my W-2. Wish I would have done this earlier. It's never too late, though, as we know. So I'm struggling a little bit with mindset as well, just kind of going all in on it or dedicating some time to it. For myself, I have to, as I mentioned earlier, I'm probably going to be changing jobs at the end of the year because I'm really burned out at what I'm currently doing. And I can't do it for another 6 or 7 years. So going to have to try and reinvent myself again or just find something else, that's less demanding. So I can focus maybe a little bit more on the real estate. But just mentally trying to stay engaged has been difficult. And of course, as I'm sure you guys have do too, you just put a lot of pressure on yourselves, compare yourself to others and such. But I think even just having the one property, and I own my own home, thankfully, so I don't have a mortgage on my current primary residence. So I did a cash out refi in my primary residence. Probably took out too much. I'm regretting that a little bit right now. But it's over now. Can't do anything about that. So, but I do have my primary residence and the one rental property so far.
Yeah, that's a big one. Part of Cynthia and I's story, talking about, probably needing to sell our primary here in California and take our equity somewhere else that's less expensive to live. So hopefully we can get into a lot of this during this time that we have together. How about you, Eden? Where are you in the country, and where do you invest, and how long have you been doing it?
I am in Long Beach, California. I've been in West. Oh my God. I don't remember the timeline, but mine it wasn't like a mindset where, okay, I'm going to invest in real estate. It just one thing led to another. So it started my primary home, which I acquired in 2017. No, 2018, actually. But I knew that California is so expensive for us. It's always been at things like, okay, find somebody to help with the mortgage, right? So then fast forward a couple of years later, ADU law came into effect. We built an ADU but on our own backyard on a primary home. Did that, found a tenant. At least I learned a thing or two about tenant screening, And because, we kind of live on the same lot, so very kind of be very selective of who we want to share the lot with. So far the tenant have been great. We've been having it for 4 years now. I pulled HELOCs actually for my ADU, try to pay those down. Almost done. It's actually one of a great move that I ever did, because then, me being me, I get so impatient. For it's just the price of California in general just keep going higher and higher. Then I went out of state. That's where, long story short, it didn't turn out as well. We got 2 projects at the same time for a flip in St. Louis, Missouri. We end up deciding to sell it because we feels like, well, either, I gonna literally brought entire family with this journey, which it wasn't a good one, cut my loss, move on with life. And then the second project, we kept it, became a rental. We found a tenant a year now and been good. The lease supposed to come up like in a month or so, 2 months, and then we will see if they're going to renew. And that is my journey.
Great. And I think I should probably mention, I interviewed you on one of my Meet the Investor videos, and you shared that St. Louis story. And so if anybody wants to check that out, you go a little bit more in depth there. So at the time you bought, you got excited. You had one flip underway, and you bought another one mid flip, and the first one turned out that you needed to sell it. The second one, instead of a flip, it turned into a long-term buy and hold, and that's where you're at now. So, but there's more to, I don't know if we have time today, but there's more to your journey, because when you bought your primary, I believe you found out when you started to remodel it that there were some issues. The previous owner hadn't pulled permits or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes. Oh my goodness. So my real estate journey wasn't as, somebody had a goal and they're gonna own like 4 houses. Mine, it wasn't that way. It was like, it's an American dream for my husband and I. We were still working. We just tried to save up and own a piece of something, right? So my primary property, actually, it was from a flipper. So, but they did, just imagine a flip work that is 70% complete. Literally what it means, the bedroom, the bathroom, the kitchens are remodeled. Then the backyard, the garage, it's like untouched. So it's, a mess, right? Maybe they ran out of budget or whatsoever reason, and they put it back in the market. It was in the market for a while, for 2 months, no, probably 3, if not more. That's when, I start to notice it. It's in a great neighborhood, it's in a great school district, something that, I feels like, okay, let go and take a look, because we've been on the market in a while, right? So anyway, we got the house, got a great deal out of it. Then my 2 days after close, I went to the city to pull permit to work on the backyard as well as to work on the garage. The city literally told me the flipper didn't pull the permit. He dodged the city the entire time. And their first word to me was, the house literally had a fee attached to it for $20,000. And this is 2018, yes. I was literally standing there, and I was almost in tears, and I told the lady that I was like, hey, the house just closed literally 2 days ago. And she's like, yeah, I saw the title transfer. But anyway, long story short, the city was really hard on me the first time, because they want me to come in and rip all the drywall and test literally everything, electricals and all of that. Eventually, it went to egress of the window, the HVAC testings and all those good stuff. It got so difficult to one point, and by then I started talking to all the homeowners, people who acquire properties at my work, and say, oh my God, this is so difficult. What should I do? Well, the house now under my name, I'm not going to let that go. What am I going to do? And one of the approach, what they did was they told me, you are the victim of the circumstances, right? Both seller and the city didn't do a good job. The city keeps saying, you know, they've been look for the seller already, but they should have done a better job. So you're a victim. Don't let them do that. That's when I dropped the word lawsuit with the city. I said, I'm willing to accommodate. I'm willing to do whatever we got to do, but you're not going to rip my drywall out and retest everything, right? That's number one rule. Number two, I am the victim of this, right? I'm not, you know, and to treat me not the right way, it's not acceptable, and I'm going to drop the lawsuit. They back off. Now, we're talking about the procedure. Now I start talking to the handymans or the contractors, got tests. I got like these three, oh my God, I still have a copy of it. 3, if not 4 pages of corrective action on my primary home. So went through it probably a good 3-4 months. Tony and I, we keep taking time off, right? We went, check it. Thank goodness we have reserve. We had reserve. And that is what, you know, we all talking all along. We all need to have reserve because we just never know, right? So we went, it was stressful, but it wasn't financially stressful because I knew kind of how much I had to put in, and we had reserve back us up, and then we kind of went through the process and we get it all done. It's really rough, but it's a blessing in the sky because it gave us a confidence to say what not to do with the city, right? And how we prepare ourselves mentally to build the ADU. Because by then, you know, we kind of knew the law of the ADU already came into play in California to kind of say what to do, what not to do, where to start with it. Which, well, I threw it away all when I went to St. Louis. So seems like I forgot my lesson. So one lesson for everybody here, please check with the city. Seriously, I call them, but it need to be in person because we don't know who pick up the call when we validate all the permits with the city. It would be best just to show up and get the data right in front of us, pull a copy of the permit. Because when that point in time, it's gonna be he say, she say, right? Because we don't know. We're not going to say, hey, can you get me a copy of permit? So that's what on my wall, that is the big lesson that I learned from now on to, you know, hopefully when I could acquire more property in California.
Yeah, there's a
Yes.
lot of learning there. And I think it's kind of tough because as buyers, we're relying on the agent and their knowledge, you know, to do some research and make sure those things are taken care of. I don't know how many people would, you know, if you realize that you were buying a flip, maybe that's a indication that you would want to check and make sure all the work was done with permits. But if you're just buying the house and you didn't know it was a flip, I mean, we've looked at some properties in the Midwest that were, to me, it was obvious they were flips because of some of the kind of work that was being done. It was just quick and sloppy. But for a normal person that doesn't have any construction background, that's kind of tough. So thanks for sharing that. I'm sure people will get a lot of out of that and probably have some questions. So Michelle, we'll jump over to you. Where do you live? Where do you invest? How long have you been investing, and what do you like to buy?
So I live north of Seattle, about 20 miles in Washington State. And I invest sort of local. My rentals are south, about an hour and a half. Right now, I'm investing in small multifamily. I have duplex, and I've been investing. I mean, I don't consider myself an investor. Well, now I do, right? Now I do, but I didn't consider myself an investor back in like 2020. I just was a person that had a primary, and then I bought a second house and ended up renting it back in 2006. And selling that house is what prompted me to start thinking of myself as an investor. So I can pretty much say that I've been investing for 20 years then, I guess. If I'm counting that I had bought the second house 20 years ago. Where am I in my journey? Selling that particular house kind of sent me to, I would say, like a light fire or like a I don't know the different like ways of people talk about, but literally I feel like I'm financially free kind of, in a sense that I don't think I rely on the job that I currently have. If I was in a really low cost of living area, or if I went to back home, I would say I don't need to worry about working. But if I stayed here and I want to not live with roommates, and then I'm not ready to quit. I'm not ready to retire. So I'm kind of like half there, I guess. Past the 10-year thing, I feel, but not ready to like retire in the sense of like not work anymore, or yeah, not work anymore and travel. So that's where I'm at.
I think you've been on the fence since we've met you, and that's been a couple of years now. A lot of people think that you're doing well enough that you could retire today, and I think Dion might have encouraged you a little bit there too. But again, like I was saying earlier, for us, the cost of living here in California, our mortgage payment here on our primary that's the main thing, right? $3,000 a month, and if we could go someplace and buy a little place cash and not have a mortgage payment, I think we could live pretty comfortably too. So we talked earlier, and maybe in a minute we can get into your 1031 experience, because that seemed to kind of catapult you and get you a couple of nice properties. And I think at the time you were thinking of deploying that money into 4 duplexes at the time, and 2 of them didn't work out. So you put most of that cash into those 2.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to leverage as much as possible, but I also wanted to stay local-ish where I could go manage. So yeah, I ended up just buying 2. I had 1 from the year before. It's a long story.
and
Yeah.
that's a great point too, because you do self-manage, and we'll come back around to that as well, because I know that part of your journey has been perfect. So we'll come back to that. How about you, Cynthia?
I was going to say, I don't know about perfect.
Cynthia, where do you live? And how long have you been investing? What do you buy?
Let me see. Today I live in overcast Watsonville, out in the country. I don't invest, only kidding. Okay, we invest in St. Louis. Where else do we invest? St. Louis, and where else?
I think you have something in Milwaukee and
Oh yeah, I
Indiana.
have one in Milwaukee. Oh yeah, in Indiana. I always forget those 2. And my journey is not really it's really your journey, because I didn't start this whole thing. You did, and I just support you through all of this, which I think is enough work in itself. But eventually, as I finish up my work, I will be getting more involved in the paperwork part of it than and getting more organized that way than actually looking for properties or that kind of stuff, because that's really your strength. So I don't know. I'm listening to these ladies and I keep wanting to interrupt and say, okay, wait, but what about? So
Yeah. I think with these guests, I think we might have to create a mini series, because I don't think we're going to get it all in today. And 2, I want to mention too, I know you guys are busy and you have things to do. Feel free, if you need to leave, just let me know, and that's totally fine. Sometimes as you probably know, we can go for days on these things. So, Cynthia, I expected you to say that you were forced into real estate by me.
Well, actually, I'm as you it for those people who know me, I'm never forced into anything because as soon as somebody says I need to do something, you might as well just forget it. I'm not doing it. So, no, our son and I were very supportive. We sat there and listened to people and played on our devices and rolled our eyes and did all of that while you learned all this stuff. And eventually, as we saw how passionate you were about it and how you were going to stick through it, whether we were with you or not, we decided to get on board, which was good in itself because it was at a point to where, see, when you first started, you had starry eyes. Everything was wonderful. Ponies, unicorns, and rainbows. Nothing was wrong with real estate. And we were just the opposite. We saw all of the, holes in real estate, but what ifs. And we had to wait until he and I could talk about it. But we had to wait until you were ready to hear that it's not all unicorns and rainbows. And I think that made it nice that we could finally give you feedback and you could hear it. And I think that made for making our journey a little bit more complete as far as when we look at properties and what have you, being able to listen. And for Karen, I know that you don't have someone to bounce ideas off of. And I just want you to know that for myself, if there's anything that you want to bounce ideas off with me, I'm available. I know Frank is. And my guess would be that these ladies are, and they have so much information. And sometimes it's not just about real estate, it's just about life because life is crazy and life happens, And so that was one of the things I used to tease Frank about all the time is that life isn't real estate. That's not life. That's part of your life. And it happens because when everybody first starts, they get these real estate is my life, but it's not. So as we go on, I'm sure we'll cover some of that.
Thank you, Cynthia. I appreciate that. I
Absolutely.
think as ladies too, I think because it is a pretty male dominated industry, right?
Yeah.
We're all coming from different places, right? Different areas of our life or different even ages, right? So yeah, the support I know is very important.
And it amazes me how well we look at things differently. I watched Michelle on her journey since I've met her. I've watched her and what she does, and she has so much, what is the word I'm looking for? She's a maverick. She goes out there and she sees something. It's like, okay, how am I going to make this work? And she figures everything out and she goes through it and whatever she has to do. But you just see her just going and going that, whatever it is that she's doing, the house that she's doing in now, it's like when she first showed pictures, I looked at my husband, I said, no, we are not doing it. Forget it. But she was, she had all of her ideas. She had, researched all these things. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. So just the amount of knowledge and how women look at things differently all makes a big difference. And it is a male dominant kind of a place, but that's okay.
Well, I think a lot of us, and I just have to second that, Karen, what Cynthia said. I think one thing that I have found in this group that even though for some of us, real estate isn't everything. And that's one thing that I heard the financial firefighter say one time is like, it's just a means to an end, right? It is a goal.
Right.
But like
Mhm.
Cynthia said, when I started jumping in and you mentioned feeling like a beginner still, even though you've been in it a few years, I still feel that way too. Sometimes I have to think, what do I have to offer anybody else in this in this little world. But all of the people in the group, I feel like I can call or text. I have all of your numbers, check on you guys, just see, how you're doing. And it doesn't always have to be about real estate, like Cynthia said, but I think that's pretty special because people in my normal circle might get annoyed if I reached out to ask them certain things or just even to check on them, but we're always here. And you mentioned earlier about just the mindset struggles that you might have. We all have them. And you're right. Sometimes it isn't the same talking to a male as it is a female. So I would definitely try to make more connections that way. Because I think not all of the women, because some of the women do get just as crazy as men do about, I just need to buy. But more of the women think things through before they go there. And sometimes I say, female investors are a lot brighter than the male investors. And that's what I mean. They just step back, don't just jump right in, at least not all of them. The majority of them think things through. And like Cynthia said, they when they started, well, I did kind of force it on her and our son, but I was desperate and I was afraid because I didn't have any retirement. So that was a big motivator for me. And I guess the way I looked at it was that I guess it wasn't just for me, it was for the family. So I thought they would just be jumping right in, but they pushed back for a while. I jumped into some mentorship courses, and I don't think they were a waste of money, but I was all into it, listening, joining meetings. And like she said, they were just sitting there, rolling their eyes, wondering when I was going to come to my senses. So it's different for everybody, but everybody in this group, I'm sure, would take your call. So don't forget about that.
Oh, the panel, like, what your whys are.
Mhm. Yeah. Maybe Michelle, you could start there. What is your why?
Mm-hmm.
My why? So my family for sure. I'm the oldest, so from a really early age, I've been kind of in charge of making sure my family is taken care of. And it is very important for me to not only be in a position where I can retire, but more in a position where I can have enough to live and work because I want to make sure that I can be there for my family no matter what it is, whether it is flying back to Colombia and spending time as my, aunts are getting older. I'm really far away from Colombia right now, so it's not cheap to go there. And my brothers, like, I need to be able to, they don't need me right now, but I need to just be able to be available in any way, time and money, or basically. So that's my why.
Yeah, I think that's great. And while you were talking, I just wanted to mention, I think Cynthia touched on a little bit, but a lot of times we hear, well, you especially, living under circumstances that a lot of people wouldn't consider, right? Maybe you have a roommate or the place you just bought, you were thinking, I'll just fix up the bathroom. That's all I need. Everything else will come.
Yes.
A lot of people won't do that. I shouldn't say wives, but I think when we think about that, like the husband is saying, oh, yeah, let's buy this place and fix it up as we go. You'll have a bathroom and we'll get the kitchen done next, but everything else will be in shambles until we renovate it. And the wife's like, no, I'm not going to do that. So, and maybe it's the husband, maybe your husband, Clay, thinks
Yeah.
that way because Michelle's diving in and creating all this value, and he needs to help her get it fixed and live under those circumstances too, so that they can both benefit in the future. So I love that.
Yeah.
How about you, Eden? Do you have a strong why? Do you think you have a strong why? That's something I talk about all the time, because if it's not strong enough, I think all of us might have not continued.
Yes, so mine the same way like Michelle too. It's just the time and the freedom and flexibility to do my thing my way, how I want it. I'm not sure any one of us know, but my job, it's just the man by itself. I'm in a typical, accountant CPA, right? So it's a good skill to have, but it also very demanding. And that's number one. Number two, I just, I am an immigrant, right? So I just want to hopefully show my little guy that, it doesn't matter where you come from. As long as you have your heart to it, it doesn't matter. It's real estate, stocks, whatever that might be, nonprofit, do it one day at a time. It's not going to get easy. It gets hard at time. Take a step back, look at it, be nice to yourself, which something I'm learning through this journey, right? And then continue with it. And that is my why, right? I don't, I know a lot of us would say, uh, we have 10 years and all that. I don't. I used to believe it 2 years ago, but now I don't. It's just my circumstances look different. The only thing is I'm asking from myself, and that is the sense we also agree in the family too. Just don't give up. Take it slow. Do one thing at a time, plan it right. And it some days, some way, somehow we're gonna get there. That's what we joke in the family right now. We're gonna get there someday. And throughout the journey, show the little guy, I have a little one, and maybe he likes it, maybe he doesn't like it. We don't know. But say, hey, this is what we work on. This is what you have. And like that's hopefully that's what we trying to do.
Okay. Thinking about that same question, Cynthia, since I was basically the one who jumped on this train, do you think you have a why now that you're in it for a while?
Okay, so stop telling people I'm in it. I'm not in yet.
Well, if
Um,
you,
if I was in it, my why is just so that my why is you. I need you to retire because I have a long list. No, that's not why. My why is that I need you to start slowing down because the work that you do wears on your body a lot, and I see that all the time. And I would like you to be able to take it easy. If our school was going longer, I probably would work another year or two to be able to give you a break. So, and our Y used to be our son, but he's off married in Australia. So that one's off the table. But that was really just and we're not a couple that likes to travel overseas or wherever. We're pretty happy just being at home and doing things here, things that interest us, things that I put on hold for the last 25 plus years with teaching. I look forward to those kinds of things, but whatever you do, whether you stay home or you go somewhere, you still need money. So my why is to be able to give you some time to rest, some time for your body to heal. And because you're so creative, giving you some encouragement to do some of the things that you've been interested in the past, other than real estate.
yeah, I have too many interests. Um, and I guess my why has evolved, right? I talked about in the beginning how I just needed to build something to be able to retire comfortably. And then that transitioned into at least helping you be able to retire, because I think you don't see it, but even if you're able to retire and I can still go out to work, there's I don't know if you'd call it, I don't know what you'd call it, but I would be okay with that. I think, I guess just knowing that, how do I put that? Just knowing that you don't have to drag out of bed every day and go to work would be a relief for me. So that's how mine has shifted. And then now that you're going to retire, then the next goal would be to work a little bit longer so that I can retire too, because you're right. A lot of I think I've come full circle, because when I started out, I was just a handyman doing little jobs here and there, and that's how we lived. Then became a contractor, started doing larger jobs. Now my body can't do those heavy lifting jobs, so I'm kind of reverting back to the handyman style. And I'm finding that I can make pretty good money just being a handyman, which is nice because I'm not stuck at one job for weeks and weeks and weeks. I get to move around and do different things. So that keeps it interesting. So um, I think it's been good in the recent months to kind of come to that realization. So
I think if you started charging or putting on your invoices, your bids, whatever, if you start putting on an extra hour that they have to pay to sit and have coffee with you, that we would probably be farther ahead. Because when you come home, I hear about, oh, whatever lady brought me coffee and she had coffee cake for me and we sat and we chatted and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, really? You say you're working hard and you're sitting there having coffee and I'm dealing with all these little brats? Seriously?
well, well, I think that's happened over the years, and I work for a lot of senior women, and right now I have a job working with one, and sometimes they just need somebody to talk to also, right? And so this woman I'm working with right now, she makes me a cup of coffee every morning, brings it out to whatever I'm doing, and her projects are small, so I've been finishing a little bit early, like 12 or 1, and then I'll sit and finish my coffee out of respect. But yesterday she sat down with me and we just talked. She's from Portugal, and we talked about, I telling Cynthia her grandfather came over from Portugal in his little boat. It took them 6 months to get to the United States, and from there their family has grown here in the States. And sometimes I get a little concerned when I see her jump in her car and take off because she doesn't drive. She complains about everybody else driving so fast, but she drives really slow. And I just enjoy hearing about her families. And I think I've become a better listener over the years. And when I come back at someone with something they told me before, it's like they're surprised that I listened. And so I think sometimes people just need that. And that's been true over the years. So Cynthia gets kind of upset with me sometimes too, because she's wanted a dog forever. But I get around to all these people with all their dogs, and I get my fill of dogs, so we don't need one anymore. So that's been another part of my journey.
I just want to tell a really quick story why I even comment about this.
Gosh, it's
Yeah.
time. I think we should
Okay,
let these folks.
nope. I need to give them this quick little story. So when we first got together, he was a handyman, and I had this dream, and I'm not a jealous person. And I had this dream that this lady that he was going to work for, because he used to work for some pretty wealthy ladies, was going to meet him at the door in a risque negligee and telling him to come in, right? Okay, so I woke up a little bit angry because he did not hesitate going in, just a little bit angry. So um, I told him about my dream, and he says, "Oh, hon, you're just don't worry about it. Everything's fine." So I was like, "Okay." So throughout that day, this was his first day at this job. Throughout this day, it kept running through my mind. I kept saying, "No, nope, it's not happening. It's good." He comes home and he has that little impish grin on his face. And I said, "So how was your first day?" He goes, "It was good." I said, okay, so tell me about it. And he goes, well, he goes, she opened the door and guess what? I said, no. He goes, yeah, except for she was 78 years old. I said, okay, then I can handle that.
That, yeah, and she was in her, I don't know what they called them back then, just her house coat or something. She had the shampoo thing on her head, but I think she was older than 78. And that's been, you know, I know I'm getting a little bit off track here, but that's been something over the years working for older people. I've lost customers, to diabetes, to old age. They've gotten Alzheimer's and things. And this particular lady that Cynthia's talking about, when I started with her, she was very old school. One of the first things she had me do, she had a brass door threshold on her front door, and she would have me polish that and make it sparkle. And then I did mop and glow in her kitchen floors. I dusted her, windowsills, all these things that were important to her. And she always told me that at least if the entry looks clean, then people coming over will think the rest of your house is clean. But over the years, the last time I worked with her, she had me do some yard work, and she was standing in her window directing me, cut this plant this way, trim this tree there. And so my dad was working with me that day. We did everything. And then I asked her to come back to the window to see if she liked what we did. And she was so upset. She said, "What did you do to my yard?" I said, "What do you mean? What did I do to your yard?" She said, "You cut all my bushes. Why did you do that?" And it took me a while until I realized that she didn't remember what she had just told me a few minutes before. So that was really tough. And so we had to get in touch with her son and let him know. And he reassured me that everything was okay, that she started doing that recently. So they were going to have to do something with her for her to maybe move her. But that's been a tough part of my job too, because I've become friends with everybody. All of my work is repeat customers. I very rarely go out and work for somebody new. So I'm sorry to get off track, but Karen, you brought the question up, and I imagine you have a pretty strong why, because you've had some challenges and you're still in it.
And in it minimally. I keep listening to stuff. I feel like that's why I feel like I'm still the novice. I keep taking in, right? I'm not taking any action at the moment because I feel like I really need to build these reserves, because the roof is going to need to be replaced on the townhome. My personal home, it's 35 years old, it's going to have issues. If I'm potentially going to, one of the things I've been thinking of is I want to eventually rent this place out, right? So it's going to need some rehabbing. I mean, it's in decent shape, but it's going to need for a rental, it's going to need some work. And so all of these things, I just think money, 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 right? Reserves, reserves. So it's all of that, and I know the Avengers and the Three Amigos have been talking a lot about that too. Like, even cash flow is great, right? But you're not going to necessarily see it the first 3, 4, 5 years, even because even the cash flow is not strong on my one rental property. So that's really what's been holding me back a little bit. And that just the motivation, quite frankly. I mean, my why is strong, but I'm thinking just about myself. I don't have children, no grandchildren, anything like that. Just have nieces and nephews. And for my personal, I work in healthcare, so I see what people need when they're in their 80s, right? And what it costs. So it's like, well, am I gonna have enough if I need to be taken care of? Have some chronic illness and such. So, that's what I worry about. But even that why is not strong enough. Time freedom is strong right now, but once again, apparently it's not strong enough, because it's just me that I'm worrying about. If I were if I had a family, if I had children, people that needed to be taken care of, potentially do, but that's still not strong enough. So that's why I'm kind of going with this idea of the get to 4, just like Mike talks about all the time, I mean, my next goal, what I keep thinking about is buying a duplex, living in one half, house hacking in some respect. Because I don't think I won't have enough money for a down payment as an investor. So I think that's what's my next step is going to have to be, but then it's where, it's just, so I get overwhelmed by even on the little stuff, right? Building a buy box. I mean, that's been overwhelming me for this past year, so with, me considering changing or leaving my current job, so, and my job is just, it's mentally exhausting. It's not physically exhausting. It's more emotionally or physically exhausting. So, not physically, but emotionally, exhausting. So at the end of the day, I'm kind of toasty, and I'm burned out at my job. So it's just all taking a toll. And I'm older, like I said. So my energy levels are not what they used to be. Right. So,
Yeah, I think along with what you were saying, when you start digging into the reality, there's so many variables, right? Michelle and a few people in Washington have been helping us look for places up there. So again, we think if we buy something cash and just have to come up with taxes and insurance, those things change, over time. If you're on a fixed income, the weather's been a big one for us because, we're really spoiled with our weather here where we're at. And I know I've learned there are some places in Washington where it doesn't rain all the time and things like that. Um, if, if we move up there, I mean, in my head, would have no problem finding work there, but then my body reminds me, you're still old. How much more can you do? So that's a thing. And we've even looked at other states, and like you mentioned, the humidity in your area is, and I don't want Cynthia to be uncomfortable. I want her to be happy. So I would, I would, um, I mean, it would be great if we could find a similar climate, but unfortunately, all of those climates are inexpensive places. So we've been frustrated, and you know, I think Cynthia, because in probably over the last year, the reverse house hacking idea came about, right? And you hear about some seniors moving in with roommates to have company and to also relieve some of the financial stress. So I think in the beginning, uh, I was not totally on board with house hacking, but duplex. And Cynthia was even further from that. But now, if we could just live someplace comfortably, I think that's all we're shooting for. So
Well, I was not and am not so excited about it. Not because I couldn't live like that I'm fine, is you'll make me crazy. You need to have some place to go out and do something.
I will make you crazy.
Yeah, you do. There's not even will be. You do. You need to go out and do something. I love you, but you are not going to waste away sitting in your chair, taking naps, and doing whatever little things you want to do. You need to keep moving and you need to get that creative mind moving. So you need some type of a shop, even if we converted it to our garage, whatever, that needs to happen. Because yes, you will make me crazy. I love you, but you will make me crazy.
Well, I didn't think we were going to go there today, but apparently we are.
I wanted to I wanted to say something for Karen. Um, you remind me a lot of myself. I feel like I'm not I don't I'm talking about myself. Like I don't feel like I believe in myself or like I have a something to offer someone. Um, I, not that I saw that from you, but you were saying something about not taking action. And I wanted to kind of have you think about that. You're saving, right now. So that's an action that I think complements your investing. Um, just the planning, of what you want to do. Not that maybe you're not defined yet because you're saying you're working on your buy box, but that is action, and I say it because I want to also remind that to me, like that even if it's not the action of looking or doing an offer, making, that's still there's still an action toward um our investing goals. We're also different. Some of us just, Cynthia says do all these things and I go all the, all the way, but not all the time. It's like right now I feel like I'm inactive because in September I bought a fixer-upper, as Frank mentioned. And yeah, I thought, oh, I'm going to fix the bathroom, clean the bathroom, right? Not even fix. There's really nothing other than being really nasty and move in. Well, let's count that I spend all my money except for like I need a certain amount of reserves. So what am I going to remodel with? And am I really ready to go live in a construction zone when I'm still working in my job? There's a certain amount of, it's not like when I bought this house that I live in now, 20, almost 30 years now, and 99, no, 27, yeah, 27 years ago, where I was just one of 100 employees. So there was not, I knew what I needed to do, and there was nothing that I, still have to think a lot. But as we progress in our jobs, there's a lot more demand. So like, if I want to live in a construction zone when my job is so demanding, so you are taking action. What about meeting contractors? Do you go out and meet people for your Rolodex?
Really, I have been not toying with, but I've been a part of like some real estate association meetings. I used to be more involved in that than I am right now. But there's a couple of local, big, investor type meetings that they offer like once a month and such, and they have like a lot of stuff going on at lunchtime, like lunch and learns and things like that, which I can attend. So I plan this month to go to the one here locally because actually, the guy that runs, I forget his name, Mike has him on his channel, Resi Club. He's actually going to be at the meeting. I was like, wait, what? Whoa, whoa. So yeah, I haven't been good about networking at all, but I plan to go this month, like I said, because the topic was going to be good and like I need to mingle, and just talk to people about because like I said, this area in Raleigh area, it's just blown up out here. It's just insanity, and so once again, that's why do I want to stay in the area? Where do I want to stay in the area? What can I afford? Blah, blah, blah. But no, I haven't been networking or talking to contractors, but that's the plan, you
Yeah.
know, I've been
That would be
thinking
an
about.
easy kind of like the low hanging fruit, making
Right.
contacts with different trade people because you were saying about your house aging. And
Mhm.
so yeah, that would be a great, that's one thing that I sort of do if I leave the house. And not just to go to work.
Right, right, right. Well, thank you. I appreciate all your
Yeah.
words too. That's very sweet. Thank you. Appreciate it. And that's a good
Oh,
tip too. Like you said,
yeah,
even for my own personal home to be talking to contractors, right?
yeah. I was gonna say just one last thing. I'm sorry, I don't want to take everybody's time. Um, have you found maybe someone that in your local area that you can copy? That's kind of what I did. Like I had no idea. Like I had been an investor for 20 years because I had a second house that I rented or rental.
Mhm.
But then I started looking more and I'm like, Dion. And I basically
Mhm.
copy what he was doing. I mean, not
Yep.
to his level, but
Right.
um, yeah.
Yeah, so
So
I aligned mostly with his mentality. That's like where I'm at, because I've even thought like turnkey property. I mean, turnkey companies. But once again, there's an investment there. You still have to do your background work, and I know Frank and Cynthia have done that as well. But yeah, because I'm like lazier than him, like that's why I
yeah.
even thought, okay, I'm going to invest a little money in real bricks right now because at least there's something there, type of thing. Um, but yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like I think I just get overwhelmed, especially with just work and such, and then doing that on top of it, right? And when you don't have other people to really, collaborate with, not collaborate, is it? But when you don't have a partner, it makes it just a little bit more challenging, I think. Not impossible, but just a little bit more challenging. If I had a partner, it'd be a little different, hopefully. But no, all these are great tips, right? And you're right, copying somebody. I mean, like I said, Dion is whom I align most with, But even he calls himself lazy, but he's really not lazy,
He's- Yeah, he's not lazy. And I'm
So,
just saying someone closer to you, just because that
Mhm.
way you can maybe find the asset that is making sense in your area.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Yeah, but hopefully, like I said, the networking, if I just plan to at least go once a month to some of these networking events, try to make it, if I could, stop my work schedule a little bit, that would be wonderful, right? If I could slam it into one of those times, yeah, they're always a lot of them are at lunchtime too. I'm like, oh my gosh, who can make it at lunchtime,
the
so
realtors.
People that don't need it.
exactly,
People that don't need it get to go at lunch.
exactly. Yeah, or work from home, they can make their own
Exactly.
schedule,
Yeah, that is a tough one. They act like we're all retired already and can just do it whenever we want. Um,
One last question though, where's everybody with how many doors they have?
how about you, Eden?
I have 3 doors
Okay.
only, including my primary.
Okay.
So yeah.
Excellent.
So
So
you
I'm not,
you
sorry,
have
go
the
ahead.
ADU on your property that you built, and you have the one in St. Louis that turned
That
into
is,
a rental.
yes. So
Yeah.
I'm not too far off from you, Karen. So
Okay.
Yeah, and
Thank
going
you.
back to what Michelle said too, I wonder if there's a way for you to meet other people that might help your motivation as well, right? Because if nothing's going on immediately around you, it seems like it would be a little bit hard to get motivated and set goals and things like that. I think for me, I would think I would have to dig deeper into my why. Um, so hopefully
yeah.
that will help. Michelle, how
May
many doors are you? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Eden.
Yes. So since I had a big hiccup, right, with my hour state, I start to listen, everything else and minimize real estate. Like before, I would listen real estate all the time. And then, what I realized for me, there's a mindset, how Michelle also mentioned. And I listened to this gentleman over YouTube. He called himself like an MIT monk. So the the methodology that he tried to explain is it's hard for us to get motivated all the time. But what we could trick our brain is to really become a routine, right? It's like a routine. So whatever that might be. And it's it and I tested my own. It took a long time for me to develop a routine. But when it does, it become a routine. I listened to like Michael Zuber, right, episode. He said, literally just air, I think like a week ago with Bigger Pockets about he spent 20 minutes a day, right, to look at his buy box in his area. And what he keep mentioning in that Bigger Pockets is we have to do it every day. It's not 20 minutes and cram it over the weekend. That's what I used to do, right? But every day. And eventually he said sometimes it's only 3 minutes. Sometimes it takes 20 minutes. But when we look at our inventory in the market wherever we look at long enough, we start to understand what is the average deal. And then, like literally try to get to the deals we want, right? The best deal that we could. So and because I'm in the process testing with my own, and I truly agree with make it become a routine, but it's very difficult for the very first time because discipline, establish a discipline, then take the motivation out of the way, and then make it a routine, and it getting easier. And the reason I say this, right, like I'm a W-2 employee, so I have a little bit of 401k and regular IRA and all those good things. Seeing I can't do anything with the real estate because I decide to come back to California, and it takes a lot of time and effort. So real estate is like my it's still like my drive, right? But now I'm like concentrating with other class of investment, other class of asset or investment, which is right now stock and bonds. So I start to test those with me, and that is true. Right now, if a day I don't listen anything a little bit with what they say in the market, I get restless. I don't know if that makes sense, right? Sometimes I only have 10 minutes. I would listen to it and then I would have my notes when I get to work, and just even that 10 minutes, even I cram it. If I don't, I get like restless. So maybe, it's not really a more kind of like a suggestion or recommendation, and you try. It might work. It probably doesn't work for everybody, but try that and make it become a routine instead of a motivation. Because motivation, we need to motivate ourselves all the time, right? And for me, and with everybody, it just the constant demand of work. It's just hard. It's just really hard. But when we make it a routine, all of a sudden it works. And he that gentleman, MIT monk, he is literally even saying that for us to make anything work, it take like a constant practice, the same way like Michelle been doing for 20 years. All of a sudden, it's ingrained in her process, in her idea, like in her execution, right? But for us, if we keep doing it, I think it goes somewhere. It will happen. Yeah. So that's my
You're
2 cents.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I think it
Awesome.
boils down to those small steps, right? Just those little
Yes.
things we
Yes.
repeat every day. You're right. Mhm.
Because
And I think it's also
yes.
important not to continue to compare
Mhm.
our
Right.
journey to somebody else's journey,
Mhm.
because no one's life is the same and everybody has different things, and everything's in a season. Right now, your W-2 might be taking up 90% of
Mhm.
your life. That 10% is spent with just taking care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be worth much at your W-2, and you might as well forget whatever you're doing in real estate because that's not going to amount to much. And if those don't, then your self-confidence starts to go down. So really that using that time, preaching to myself, using that time to just get yourself back into a spot to where you're ready to keep moving forward. And it's okay to take breaks. Frank used to listen to, oh my gosh, so many podcasts, so many people, so many groups. It was like, okay, so who are you again? What's your name? I started teasing him because I used to tell him I have a boyfriend. His name is Olgai REI. I see him more than I see you. So it was one of those things that he had to stop and take, look at how much, where is this my whole life? And if I'm doing this for our family, then where am I putting my family? Which also includes self-care. So that's an important part too. And unfortunately, as real estate people think that if you're not doing a deal or you're not doing this or that, that you're not doing enough. Well, that's not true. You know, give yourself some time to, I don't know, whatever you need, give yourself some time, because then you're going to be more effective when you start doing the other things, whether it's looking for a property, saving money, whatever. And celebrate those milestones. And they don't have to be, huge milestones, small milestones. Shoot, I made it through work this week. I'm going to give myself a whatever. Just doing that makes a difference. JP Jim says that he teaches the small landlords all the business practices that we teach in our leasing agents. So he says they offer an online classes through his website. And it sounds like he has a lot of good information. So you guys might want to, if you're interested, connect with him to find out what it is that he offers, which is part of it because we have property managers. He goes through screening, fair housing, safety, all of that kind of stuff, which would be probably pretty good to get to some of that information. Oculus, I am so glad you're on. Welcome. I miss you. I'm glad things are going okay. Get in touch with Frank. Give us an update. Sorry, we haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that in earlier today about the first time we went to Vegas and all the people we got to meet. He was one of them, and
Yeah.
Michelle, obviously, and Anna, and Mikey, everybody we had been online with for the previous year. That was really special. I Well, first, I have a few things. So first, our favorite firefighter is in here, and he actually had a good comment. He was saying, I think to you, Eden, not to keep saying I only have 3 doors. And I think, and Karen, maybe 1 door, right? And whatever we have, Michelle, we'll get to yours in a minute. But even if it's just 1 door, you know so much more than so many other people out there. And I think one of the mindset shifts it, that would be helpful, at least it's been helpful for me. And, I've been playing around with AI for a while and plugging in all these things that I'm trying right now. I have like 50 things in the pot. And Cynthia tells me this all the time, but when AI told me, I sat back and listened.
I
Said
won't
just
even tell you
just
what I call his EA girlfriend,
just
AI girlfriend. She's
that,
oof.
that this is not that kind of a show, but the the main thing was just concentrate on one thing, plan a goal towards one thing. And for example, yesterday I've been posting on YouTube, and I have Instagram and TikTok and all these things. So I was just researching, how do you make money on Instagram or TikTok? And I wasn't posting shorts. I pay for Opus clips to create shorts, but I haven't been posting them. So I'm wasting money on that subscription. So
Mm.
it walked me through the process of posting on TikTok and Instagram and changing my uh, changing some of the settings in there so that they might lead people back to our channel on YouTube. So once I just focused on that one thing, I did accomplish quite a bit yesterday in an hour that I had before I went and had coffee with the little old lady. So I think that's a big help. And it's hard to get motivated, right? Karen, you just don't know where to start.
Yep.
But I think getting together with groups like this or wherever it is in school, throwing a comment in there, I'm sure people will offer suggestions, and maybe that'll light a spark and help you find a direction to go in so that you can work towards some of your bigger goals. Um, so I like that. I like that comment from Mark, and I appreciate everybody jumping in too. That's in the comments. The other thing that I think Mark was saying was teaching is so easy. Why don't you keep doing it?
Oh, Mark. Because it is easy when I have a whole classroom full of marks. I just line them up and just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the ruler. Yep. They're lucky it's only a ruler. I tell them there's a spot behind the work shed at school that I have view of that I'm going to take them out there. So Mark would probably be my first one.
Mark would never be in the classroom. Um, so, so getting back to the door count,
Uh,
Michelle, what are you at now?
Um, so this answer is gonna be kind of controversial.
nah,
Um, I will add to the duplex, I would add 2 doors at my
nice.
house. So I've got one currently occupied and another one that I haven't been motivated to complete the, refreshing of that room so I could rent it. But so usually I have 2 rooms in my own house that rent. Um, and then I have 3 duplex, so that'd be 6, so 8. And then I have an empty remodeled, to do um currently, so 9, and then where I live, right? Which includes the 2 doors that I'm adding to count. Um, it's one of the things that I like is figuring out, and I listen to YouTube to do that as well, is figuring out how do I make money? Like how do I
Yes.
add? Because with our W-2s, it's just a lot of times not enough for our costs. So yeah, renting rooms, and yeah, that's it. That's my count of doors. But in reality, just the three duplex and 2 bedrooms
Mhm.
at my house.
Yeah, and I mean that keeps coming up, but you make me think that there are real estate investors, but within that circle of real estate investors, there's people like you who will do whatever it takes to reach their goal, right? Renting rooms in their house, living in a house that just has a bathroom finished, things like that. And I think, you know, even though even though Cynthia and I have a goal that we really, really want to get to, there are still some things that we won't do, right? In that same kind of um, realm, I guess. So, uh,
Yeah, I have contemplating OnlyFans, and that's the one thing I won't do.
I tried it. It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They kept shutting down my account for some reason.
Mhm.
Um, and so Cynthia and I, so sometimes, so we made it up to 10 doors. And my thought process in the beginning was, get to 20 doors at $200 or $300 a door positive cash flow, and we'd be set. Then Dion broke it down and told me it was going to take at least 5 years. So when we hit the 5 year mark, that realization hit me. And so that's why I started jumping into all these other things. I think Karen and I spoke a little bit about it. Other ways to make money, right? Because the real estate is probably going to need another 5 years. So, and hopefully, I will last another 5 years to see it come to fruition. But knowing now, after everything we've gone through, I even though I wouldn't have been happy at the time only having 4 single family homes, now I can really appreciate that concept, like Karen mentioned before, because and I think about, we have a triplex, we have a duplex, and we have some single family. And the single families are so simple compared to the multifamilies. And so learning that, right? I think moving forward, if it's not a duplex that we house hack, it probably would be another single family that we buy, just because the tenants move in, they take care of the utilities, they take care of snow removal and lawn care and all that stuff, instead of having to, you know, get back billed up for utilities and get reimbursed after the fact. And all of that is just a lot more difficult than it needs to be for us. I think simplifying it, getting things stabilized, and maybe getting 1 or 2 of them paid off if possible, because then, even though that's not a great return on your investment, it's still a lot more cash flow. And at our age, that's what we need to live on, right? The cash flow. So, um, do you have any thoughts about that, Cynthia, about the door count question?
I think it, I'm all for stabilizing before you buy, because there's always going to be deals out there. I also don't believe, well, there's always going to be deals out there. People are always going to be moving. People are going to be selling houses. And I think sometimes people get a little scared of, oh my gosh, if I don't take this deal now, then nothing else is going to come up. Well, that's not true. And that hurts people more, because they go too fast and then they end up, having to do whatever to get things up and running. So I think I don't like the fact that we're probably not going to really see the true potential of our properties for another 5 years. That's a hard one for me to swallow. But I personally think if we will pick up another one. But I think people need to get to that point of what is comfortable for you, and that's different for every person. What's comfortable for you to handle, money wise, yourself, your personally, what is it that's comfortable for you to do? Excuse me. And then get there and then start moving into getting other places, but not losing sight of those that you already have. I think sometimes when we get new properties, the ones that we already have go by wayside. You don't really give them as much attention as we should. We don't give them as much attention as we should. My dream is to get to the point of, like I said, we're not really fancy, need to go all these places kind of people. My dream is to have one house, once we're comfortable, have one property for everything that I want that's an extravagant something. Like I need one house just for pet insurance, someone to come and clean up the poop, that kind of stuff. And then I need another house for something else. That to me is being comfortable. I know it sounds crazy, but to me, when you can have other properties to do those crazy things you want to do, that to me is amazing. And it's also amazing just to have the properties that we have doing the job that we thought they're supposed to do. And we know it's possible. I just need to make sure it's during our lifetime.
Yeah, it seems like just as you get rolling, like we had a stretch recently where there was 3 or 4 months and all the rents came in on time and there were no big expenses, to counter that. But then this month we have a big expense we might be facing. And I can't wait to get out of that kind of mode, right? I think a long time ago, Mikey and I talked because he had a similar mindset to my mom. One time I was chatting with my mom and she just mentioned that she was just always waiting for the next bad thing to happen. And I try really hard not to go there because when Mikey and I were talking about it, I told him my personal experience. I was like that. And I'll give you an example. So we had these neighbors, and they would play their music super loud, right? Just super loud. And nobody needs to hear your music a mile down the road. That used to really tick me off. So, or they would throw a party, right? And the first party lasted till like 3 a.m. And I couldn't sleep. I was just irritated. So moving forward, I was always thinking this weekend they're going to have another loud party. And so my week would be affected by that, right? And then I realized that 8 months had gone by and nobody had a party. Nobody played loud music. So all those 8 months, I had this mental thing hanging over me. So what I meant when I was talking to Mikey is that we shouldn't waste that time, right? Because it's on us. They're not thinking about it, obviously, because they're not considerate or whatever. And it doesn't just have to be the music thing, but anything in your life that might happen that you think is bad and then you're expecting it to happen again. But we waste all this time anticipating that bad moment, and it makes all this time up until then not as good. So I was saying that because we had 4 good months of cash coming in and then the bad thing happened. So I don't want to get past this bad thing waiting for the next bad thing. We need to enjoy the good stuff that's going along the way. And you probably have heard me talking how I would go through a work day, everything was great. And then, at the end of the day, I smashed my finger or something. So that was the thing I concentrated on instead of thinking, wow, I had 7 great hours and 5 bad minutes. And I think if we keep that perspective, it's helpful moving forward. And once I had that mindset shift, things were a lot better. And that kind of leads into what Cynthia was saying about enjoying the journey, because I wasn't enjoying the journey at first. I was just push, 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 and we couldn't spend any extra money and things like that. And that starts to take its toll too. So hopefully people hear that. And, even if it's just going out to dinner, I have to remind myself to turn off my phone so that I'm present. We'll go to dinner or lunch, Cynthia and I, and even though I'm not answering my phone, it's on my mind, right? What am I missing? Who's saying what? Just leave it in the car, lock it in the trunk or whatever. So it's gone. So it has really helped to enjoy moments like that. And, honestly, I was thinking about it this morning that when you get older, those good moments are really valuable. So do you guys have anything to say about any of that I just said?
Well
Before we
said,
get
Frank. Very well said.
Thank you.
Live in the moment sometimes too, and we all do this. Myself, I'm like an excess warrior, so why worry about something that hasn't even happened yet, right? We spend a lot of time worrying about tomorrow when it hasn't even, we have enough worries for today, as the Bible says. So,
Yeah.
why do we spend so much time about worrying about tomorrow? I mean, we should prepare for tomorrow, but we shouldn't have to be worrying and anxious about it all the time.
Do you think too, when you think about tomorrow, if you think about it positively, I think that's a big one too, because that it's the same kind of thing. If you think, what do I have to do tomorrow? Or what is my job going to be tomorrow? What am I going to do at work? That could sometimes be a little dreadful, but if you think that, I woke up today and that's a great opportunity to face these challenges instead of these are all my challenges that I have to face today. So yeah, mindset is huge.
Mm-hmm. There's a good book called The Gap and the Gain. So basically it's really learning to reframe your negative, attitude, right? Instead of looking, thinking of things as negative, they're, you can you can spin them positively. So this fellow, I mean, it's a pretty easy read too. But he used those tips and such on his family with his kids and such, but he's like, it affects every area of your life, really, so. Because I always when I think about like the people that we listen to, it's like sometimes I feel like it's just a separate breed of people. Like they're just some can-do people, and they can come from very meager beginnings, and they just pull themselves out, right? But I feel that like they're the minority, Yeah. So that there's more of them and less of I'm not that way, unfortunately, but they are, So the mindset is huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget where I heard it, but somebody was talking about, um, someone might not feel great about where they're at today. And a lot of us don't turn around and look back at what we've made it through. And I think that's pretty powerful because, we've all faced challenges. And now, if you look back at them, they aren't as big as they felt at the moment. So that's pretty huge. And I like to think that way. I didn't always look back, but when I started to look back, I was pretty amazed at what we've been through and what we made it through. Some of these other questions that came up for today, was there ever a moment that you almost quit?
Yes.
Okay.
That was quick, huh?
But you can't quit, Cynthia, because you're not.
I know, so I'm not in it, so I can't quit. But I was never at a point where I wanted to quit with what we have. I was going to quit at the beginning. I didn't even want this. So at that point, that was my quit. But once we started going, you wanted to quit more than you wanted to quit, and I had to talk you off the ledge. I've never been to the point of I want to quit. We're too far into this to quit. So I think, yeah, yeah. And the funny part is that probably the one property that we have, the triplex, which is really a monster, it's a Frankenstein property. I think, I don't know why I have a connection with that place, but that is one that I have to be right on the verge of having to go live under a bridge before that one gets sold. I don't know what it is about it, but there's just something that I just can't let that one go. The others, we could sell them. We'll find something else. But for some reason, there's something about, I think maybe because that's the one that turned my mind around on investing. And I think it had to do, of course, with the PM and finding someone, or he found us, someone who was actually reaching out and doing their job and doing it well. That made the change in me because then I could see that, okay, with partnerships, yes, it can work. And so, yeah, I haven't. And now we're not going to stop. We can't.
Well, I think if I remember right, that day I asked you, why did you let me get into this real estate investing stuff? You didn't stop me sooner. But she's right. There were times that
What did I say to you? I
there,
laughed at you and walked away, didn't I?
there were times that I felt I was feeling really low um, and she pulled me back out. So I think that's been great for us. Um, how about you, Eden? Was there a point where you thought you might just quit and go buy stocks or something?
Yes, it was. And that happened actually last year. When we went through, right, kind of the story of my second flip that we end up deciding to let it go. I was like, I'm done. This is way too difficult. We have our little one. My husband is a stock guy, but he's very supportive through the journey. He helped me where he can, but it's not where his heart is. And I also have full-time job. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this one more time, but I think I'm gonna be done. So what made me continue going is that, well, at that point in time, after we sold the property, I stopped doing anything. I literally, I didn't listen to podcasts. I didn't really do anything with real estate. Looking back, it's a break that I need to really coming back to myself, because at that point in time, I lost me. Literally, my husband looked at me and he said, we are right here, but you don't see us. What you see is your transaction and your properties and your door accounts. And it's a wake-up call, right? And then I stopped, went back to the whiteboard and think about what is the best way for me and for my family, because we do it, it's not just for me, for everybody, and what is the right approach, right? And that is huge. That is huge for me. But yes, at one point I was like, man, this is so difficult. Especially, I know I'm not that smart with a lot, like a lot of us. Our state investment, they're great, but it's not me. It's just not me, right? So, but yes, that's the honest truth. I almost quit.
Yeah, I think when you and I first met, you, um, I think you were taking it really personally that you felt defeated because you had to sell that property and in the middle of the work being done. I don't know. I just have to say after going through all of that and you're still wanting to move forward, that says a lot. Um,
And yes, so it's also contradicting to my personality too, right? When I want to start something, I want to finish it. But then during, the hard money lenders do, the loans do, and um challenges with constructions, like, which I have to deal with it, maybe, I'm not sure yet. When it comes to legal aspects, it's getting very, very challenging. So that's when I reach out to people a lot smarter than me. And one of them is a family. She's my cousin. And she always let me know that she's like, sometime you know where to cut your loss. And that is a very wise word, because she said, when you go deeper into it, you don't know what you get into. And with, the young family, and then now also a challenges in the family as well. It just got where the compromise, there's the like stopping point, and we chose that. If I would tell my husband as of today, I said, if it's up to me, I would not sell the property. I would go through it. I would just continue that journey. And now it was his idea. I made that decision, support his decision, and then we let that go. Yeah. So in other words is, I hope not everybody have to go through it, but at the point in time when if we end up going through it, know where to stop also is important, because we always could make money somewhere, right? In real estate game, I keep hearing people saying, and multiple times, and I seen it through my own eyes too, if we stay here long enough, we will make that money back. Maybe 20 years down the road, we don't know, but we will make it back. So, but yeah, yep,
we've got a
yes,
moment.
yes.
Thanks. How about you, Michelle? I mean, from what I know about your journey, it doesn't seem like I've ever heard you talk of a point where you thought about quitting.
I think I feel like Cynthia. Until 22, I really didn't think I was in. So I wasn't gonna quit anything because I wasn't an investor. So I don't know that I have felt like quitting. I know I'm also, I mean, if you consider that I bought a house in 2006 and I sold it in 23, was it 23? When did I sell it? It was 24. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
think it was right around then. Yeah.
Um, and so it takes time for me, people talk about the 10-year suck or whatever, the 5-year suck and the 10-year
Yeah.
process to do it.
It used to be 5 years of suck. It's growing into 10, but
Yeah, that's probably true. Um, and I'm like, well, I'm in a 20-year one.
that's a little too long.
Yeah, 18 years, that because I didn't think of myself as an investor. All I was doing is renting to pay for the mortgage, and that was it, and um having found this group of people is what um pulled me in finally. So Cynthia, see, hang out more.
Yes.
Um, and so now I feel like I've only been an investor since 22, so 4 years. I'm still within the 5 year. Um, I I believe in this. I don't think I have maybe the day is coming, because Karen, don't feel alone. You're not. Um, I bought that fixer upper in my 5 minutes from my job in September, and I did some stuff, some of the major stuff, but now I got to know what I'm doing type person, and so now I got to learn how to do the permit process and that stopped me on my tracks. So maybe the I want to quit time is coming for me because I haven't done anything on the house. I keep saying it's okay because I bought it so low, and and the loans I have in it are basically little, I do have a loan, it's just not on the house. Um, yeah, I keep letting it go for now. The real struggle of real estate is if I put any more money or time into thinking what I got to do next, then I don't want to I don't want to get crazy, I don't want to maybe say, oh my God, this is too much for me. I'll just give myself a break and say, take it slow. It's been working. Your goal isn't to become a super, millionaire person. It's just to have options. And so I feel like I got that now. And so, you know, just keep taking it slow so you don't feel like quitting.
Has Michelle, has your husband ever been to the point where he asks you, why are we doing this?
Every
Or
day.
slow down? Or slow down or anything?
We come from very humble origins, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for us, it's work to live,
Mm-hmm.
you just kind of live in your, whatever, to your best of your possibilities. And so when we got together, so now think about this. This is my third husband. Um, just add that in there. Um, and it's probably going to be considered my fourth because I did have a really long relationship that I didn't get married. So, so we've only been together a little over 6 years, and every day he basically says, why do you need another house? He doesn't understand it. And I'm like, I'm not, he feels like we're already rich,
Mm-hmm.
and no, we're not. I mean, we got a lot of, I mean, we are, but not in the sense of like the people you see in, you know, social media, flexing all the fancy cars and all that. They think we're rich in the sense of we're not going to starve if
Right,
one of us loses a job. So every day he
right.
says, what are you listening to now? Another real estate thing, another investing thing. What's the next project? What's the next, yeah, every day.
And he's still with you because he loves you.
Yeah, I feel like this is it. This is the relationship that will last for me because he doesn't think I'm crazy. I mean, even though he's kind of like that, um, I've got the evil guy here and he's the angel guy, saying, um, you're already there. Like, stop. Don't worry about it. It's okay. So I think he gets to stay. So yeah,
Oh,
he still puts up with me.
You have different standards. Um, so we still will come to you in a moment, Karen, but I was just thinking, Eden mentioned needing to take a break, and I have said a few times too that getting back around to not comparing ourselves to people that are further along, you know, I think a lot of us, I wouldn't maybe not compare, but aspire to be in a position where Zuber, Dion, Matt, Millennial Mike are. And I had to cut way back on what I was listening to, um, because I finally did realize that, I probably never would reach that level. And sometimes we're happy for them, right? That they can travel wherever they want, they can take cruises and things like that. And for a while there, a lot of the content was based on that, and it wasn't really helping me. It was like more depressing me than anything. So I stopped. But along with that, I think you need the mental break. But then sometimes I wonder, uh, even if the whole video didn't pertain to what I was doing, there might be that one thing that I could hear that could help me, so there's a little bit of guilt, a little bit of shame, because I want to support my friends. They've obviously done a lot for us in our journey. Um, but it took a while. And I think a lot of people in the group still feel bad about where they're at because of the people that we watch. So that's an important mindset shift as well. Not that we have to, you know, um, cancel everybody, but be more selective on what we listen to. A lot of my stuff that I listen to nowadays is about older people facing retirement, that kind of thing. Sometimes that gets depressing too, because there's a lot of people out there that don't have enough to, to retire comfortably. It's sad, but the country's going, the world is going in that direction pretty quick. Um, so getting back to the question, Karen, did you face anything in your journey so far that made you want to stop or quit?
Maybe after that first renter, I had such a issue with that. Like I felt like, oh, this was probably a mistake, or I jumped in too quickly. I didn't run the numbers like I should have, there's always, and I'm just thinking back now, it's like, how did I even do all that, But once I have something that needs to be done, I just do it. But yeah, I think that what has feared me is like, well, I took out, did a cash out refi on this house. It's like probably took out too much and I spent most of that money. So now I have to keep this. And the fact that the property's stable now and that the market has appreciated a little bit, like, okay, it's gonna be okay. And it's the long game, right? That's what's important. And I think I do have to, because I'm with you too. I had to cut off some of the stuff I was listening to because I was comparing myself too much, or it's like, why can't I do what they're doing, kind of thing. So kind of just going back to the basics, right? Like that's why I mentioned like just getting to four, or just this is my journey, not anybody else's. So even if I do only have 3 or 4 doors, that, even it's not going to maybe retire me, but it's definitely going to help in my retirement. And it's just the following through on stuff for me right now. It's just kind of keep moving forward. But like Michelle mentioned earlier and Eden too, it's just, building the small routine, right? Just kind of chipping away at it. It doesn't have to be these big goals every day or every week, or every year. It's just kind of keep it simple, right? And if I'm in, building reserve mode, that's where I'm at, and that's okay. But to keep learning too, and that's why think I still listen, or I listen to, Coach Carson, or like even Millennial Mike, because, he kind of did it, quickly, but I just like to hear them talk, and just focusing on these little things can make a difference. Because I don't want 20 or 30 doors, that's not what I'm going for. Like Michelle said, just want to be comfortable. I'm not looking to be rich. I don't need to be a millionaire. I just need to be comfortable, you know.
Yeah, that's a great point that you just mentioned about, how many doors. So in the beginning, like I said, with our monthly expenses, I figured we'd need 30 doors. But then once you're in it for 5 or maybe 10 years and rents increase and you learn how to optimize things, maybe you don't need 30, maybe you just need 20 or whatever it might be. I think that's where we're at too, just to have enough just to live comfortably and maybe be able to save a little bit each month beyond that, just in case. I mean, things could happen that this would never be enough. So I think we can't really worry about that, or we'll just keep working until it's too late. And for all of us here, wherever we're at in our journeys, I know I've realized that we have more options today than we had 5 years ago, even though it's been a struggle. So, um, so that's a positive thing. And I definitely do want to respect your time because I can go forever. But if you guys need to go or are tired of listening to me, just say the word. Um, so I think the next question was, how has your strategy evolved over the years? And like I just mentioned, for us, that's it, right? Not realizing that multifamilies might not be my favorite thing, but a lot of people like it because if one unit's vacant, the other two could carry the mortgage potentially, and that takes a lot of stress off having to pull money out from other places to cover the mortgage. One of our friends in the group recently had a few vacant units and wasn't so worried about it because he has fourplexes. So if one's vacant, the other three more than covered his mortgage, and he was still able to add to his reserves. So I think a big motivator is money. He was comfortable. He didn't rush to fill the units, even though they were ready to rent, until he started realizing how much he was losing. Once he got 2 or 3 vacant units, then he started to feel the pinch, and that motivated him to start getting the units filled. So I guess, like in our case with the triplex, I mean, it's very simple. They're inexpensive units, but if one's vacant, the other two, there's not that pressure as much as there is if one of our single families is vacant for a month or two, and we're having to pay that mortgage for a couple of months. Like, you guys probably know we're going through the eviction in Gary. That's been 4 months that we've been paying that mortgage, and luckily we get a little bit of help from all of the other units because there is a little bit of positive coming in. So, but it's a bummer, right? You take your profit from these units and you got to pay the mortgage for that unit, so you're not really making any money. So some people might wonder why we do this, but I think we've all here have had proof of concept, right? You just mentioned renewing for 2 years. I think that's awesome. So you can count on that potentially for 2 years. Eden has had her new tenant in for almost not quite a year, right? 6 or 7 months, something like that.
Yes. So I think it's 10 months now. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Mhm.
And that's going well. So there is proof of concept. Michelle has had hers for a while. And I was joking earlier when I said that everything's going perfect for you, Michelle, but you have had some challenges. And one that I was thinking of specifically the other day was when you went into one of your units and realized that your tenant didn't live as neat or cleanly as you live. What was that about?
So she's still living there. um, she young, early 20s. Um, so happy-go-lucky. She calls me. Well, one of the neighbors said, "Hey, I don't think this girl has garbage services because it looks like she's piling up the garbage in the back and in the front." She had just moved in, like within a month. So I went to oh yeah, make friends with your neighbors, not just your renters. I have a little old-fashioned security system at my first duplex. Um, and so I went to the duplex, and yeah, sure enough, the garbage cans were full, but those were the ones that were left there from my prior tenant. And she had at least one bag in the front and one huge bag in the back. And so I said, what are you doing? Oh, I just been forgetting to put the garbage out to the curb since I moved in. And I was like, okay, well, like, how about we put it on the curve right now? And then the you know car goes by in 4 days or whatever number of days. The neighbors are not probably going to complain that your garbage cart is in the curve. So then she confessed that she didn't, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to call them and get it set up. Okay. Well, then I think she did, and she started to, not accumulating. But then she calls me because she moved in around this time last year. And so June, July, August, we have a lot of wasps. We have a lot of, whatever, summers, a lot of insects. So she calls me and she says that she's in a hotel because the house is full of bees and that she got stung. I'm like, full of bees? What? Okay. Um, do you see where they're coming from? And she's like, well, from the light. From the light. It's a popcorn ceiling. So the light that was on that in that room has little, areas where, yeah, the bees were going in the attic and then coming out that light. So when I went in, she had dog food on the floor, like the dog dish. And I was like, okay, well, I agree she could have a dog. Um, Cups with soda and, halfway eaten cupcakes and cookies and rotting, fruit and all the stuff. And I said, I'm going to address why the wasp went inside the attic. If that one's on me, because when I bought the duplex, the breathing, whatever you call it, and for the roof, for the attic, some of them were damaged, and so I used the net that has too big of the holes, so the birds don't get in, but yeah, little wasps can. So I went in and killed the nest. She thought it was bees, but no, it was wasps. So kill the nest inside and out. They had made nest in the attic, and then put finer mesh on all the different holes that for the roof to breathe. And I said, but next time you call me, I'm going to charge you for coming in to see what your problems are, because the bees or the wasp or whatever animal comes in here did not come in before, because you don't leave things out like this. It's nasty. It's nasty. Like, this food is all over the place. I'm surprised there's not more critters inside. So she's gotten better.
What did she say when you told her you were going to charge her?
She was like, oh, well, but how was I going to take care of the bees? I said, no, I will continue to, I'll still come in, but I'm going to charge you if it's an issue with something that was preventable. And she
Got
was
it.
like, okay, I'm okay with that. She's very much like, she's used to just paying, like, whatever, like, she's living alone. The rent isn't cheap and it's a 2 bedroom. So, like, she's used to just spending money. She's
Right.
good. She's a good tenant, but I think she doesn't have a good sense of financial sense, I guess.
Hmm.
She was okay with it. She hasn't called me anymore.
Maybe you should.
Yeah, I go and I just drive around and look, visit my little my old-fashioned security system. just to say hello. And yeah, seems she's not leaving too many things out that I can see. Um, so yeah, she's doing better. I think it's the first time she lives outside of her home, her family home. She's, I think, like 22 or 23. So she's learning. She's learning to adult.
That's good. That's good that you're teaching, that you have the patience to teach her, because other people would have said, you know what, here's your notice, you're out of here, and not, but
Yeah.
that's good. That's an
Yeah, I
opportunity.
told her that too. I said if you don't clean up and we get some sort of infestation, I am going to have to ask you to leave. Well, then in a month after that, she's like, "Oh, I'm pregnant and I might need to break the lease because I want to move closer to my parents' house." And I said, "Yes, please." Like, leave. But yeah, that she was like, oh, she didn't end up, something happened with her pregnancy. And I feel so bad for her, but um, she didn't end up moving after all, and she's okay. She's okay. Um, anyway,
I think that example is kind of borderline. I think about what Dion says about, like, he doesn't go into his units. He doesn't care, how they live as long as they're not destroying the place.
yeah,
I think, and Cynthia has mentioned before, I couldn't have our rentals too close to where we're at because I would throw them out for every little thing,
yeah,
driving by, working on the car in the driveway, having unlicensed cars. There's, we had that issue. My mom had a rental, which is just a few miles from us. And when she passed away, we were managing it. And I had to get a property manager because of that relationship my mom had with those tenants. They were friends. So it was really hard for me to play hardball, I guess. So I had to get the property manager to do it. And it was a bit easier. But for me, I think long distance is better. You don't want people trashing your stuff. So we still get inspections. I like even though we're going through eviction in Gary, that property manager does inspections every quarter, which I really like. And none of the other ones do it unless I ask for it. So and it costs a little bit, but I'm okay with paying, $100 or $2 to get pictures of what they're doing to the insides. And over time that will get easier, right? Because when you first start out, spending a couple $100 for that is a little bit harder, even though you want to protect your asset.
yeah. I only have really two of the units that I'm dealing with people that I place. So out of the six doors, four people are inherited tenants. So that has also been somewhat challenging. They pay the rent. One of them not always on time. That's another challenge. Um, when I was going through the 1031 exchange, one of the things we did is rebuy, when you buy any rental, right? You go in to look at the rent roll to see, is this tenant really paying, or am I gonna buy an eviction? So there was a inconsistency on her account keeping for one of the sides, and I said, "What's going on with this guy?" And he does fences. So what they had a deal was, he would do fences for their properties. They have more properties, and so they would basically do like work trade for rent. And but that was like, no, that's not what I see here, because there's some months that he paid 500 and another months that he paid the full, 1,000 or whatever. Plus he was in a really low rent amount. Um, and basically they said, no, that's it. Basically, if he did a job that was $1,000, he only pays 500. If he did a job that, so I was like, okay, well, I hope this guy is going to be okay, because I have work for him. Cheap. The only way I can make this work is if I go do my own fences. And yeah, he's been a challenge. Basically calls in the first year every month. Oh, I'll be there by the 5th, it'll be there by the 5th. Well, he set the payment up by the 5th, but then I wouldn't get it until the 7th. So the lease says as long as they set the payment by the 5th, I'm okay with it. I did have to do a payment plan for one of the months because he just couldn't, there's all kinds of health issues. And he's an inherited tenant that's been in this property for 15 years.
Whoa.
So the moment that I hope he doesn't listen to your channel, Frank, the moment I ask him to leave, I'm gonna have to do a deep remodel, like a gut remodel, because he smokes in the unit. He smoked in the unit. I mean, like when I bought it, he smokes in the unit. So yeah, it's been kind of like I'm on the fence whether I wanna, and his son literally was born in that, while they lived in the house. So it's like if I do end up asking him to move out, I'm asking him to move his son away from the only home he's known. So now there's a lot of heart in some of the decisions, and I know Dion has always said if you can't separate the business from the heart, you have to have a property management. And I think I can be tough, but there's certain things I feel like if you're paying the rent, on time this year so far, knock on wood, he's been on time and he's catching up on that payment plan that we set up for December. Is that's one of the conditions of the payment plan. I said, I'll let you pay December in increments monthly, but the next time you call me that you're not going to be able to pay a month or you're not going to be able to be on time with rent, the deal is off and you owe me the money right there and I'm filing. And I don't want to do that, but I'm trying to work with you. And he's been good. Again, hopefully this is real wood. Then the other one, and this is another challenge for me, because I go to this property and he meets me at the property, but there's always cousins and nephews and sisters, different people every time. He's not from this country. And so I mean, I understand because I'm not from here either. And I always had different family members come in, one year, one of them would stay 3 months, the other one would come in the next year and would stay up to, because you get like 6 months to stay, and they would stay because they're students or they had just graduated from high school and they didn't know what, didn't have a job or had to work, and you have free rooms. So I kind of get it. So I'm trying not to be too pushy with him. Again, pays the rent right on the first. I get it. One, and the place is being taken care of. I don't see it, there's any damage, they're good. The carpet is old because he's also an inherited tenant. And he called me and said, hey, we made a something drop on the carpet and there's holes. I said, I want to know how much you're going to charge me for that. And I said, nothing, because, I move out. You've been there for a long time, so I'm not going to charge you to recarpet the place. And he said, well, what, I'm not moving out. I said, oh, yeah, as long as you're okay with this, I can schedule changing, and I'm gonna remove the carpet anyway from the unit. And then I went another time, and there were like parts of cars. Someone wrecked the car, and they had like the bumper on the side, and so I took pictures, and right away, like 5 minutes later, picked up and sent me pictures that he had picked it up. So, I mean, like little things like that, but they're good. So I'm okay. So anyway, that's been my landlording experience.
Yeah, I think that the other thing Dion says is, which pertains to me, if you don't have a backbone, you need a property manager. So I think I'm safer a lot. And doing it out of state, I think, is a whole different set of challenges. We have some friends in the group that are trying it. I think Chester's trying Hemlane, and he's going to manage his unit in Detroit that way. So I'm waiting to see how that goes for them, and maybe we'll try one later. But I think my last question for today would be if someone, so I talk a lot about sharing all this information, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there's a lot of ugly that I'm not trying to talk people out of investing in real estate, but just hoping that they come in with a clearer mindset than we did. So if someone was watching and you were able to tell them something because they were sitting on the fence about jumping in or maybe buying their next property, what would you tell them? Karen?
Definitely to know how to work the numbers, right? Definitely know your numbers. And it doesn't have to be with AI today and all such things. They don't have to be perfect by any means. And then always plan for those unexpected things that might happen, because we hear a lot about once again how great it is, the cash flow, blah blah blah. But you really have to know what could potentially happen. And the good thing is, if you do own your own home, you do know what could potentially happen, right? The water heater could go, the HVAC, the roof, just minor plumbing stuff, right? So you just have to be able to understand, the taxes, insurance could go up, right? So it's just knowing home ownership in general, right? And then as a landlord, you're responsible for that, right? Um, and then to treat people as you would want to be treated, right? We don't want to be taken advantage of, but it's like Cynthia said, it's not all rainbows and puppies and unicorns. You have to know you can't jump in blind. You do have to have some understanding and knowledge and get some education, right? It's free on YouTube, right? So, but yeah, understanding the numbers and just take your time, right? But even though I'm a little bit, just stagnated at the moment, even if someone does talk about real estate, I do talk about the benefits of it, obviously, home ownership, it has its benefits, right? And to everybody to get on the property ladder, I think it's important for everybody. I mean, I don't know, I see these younger folks today, they're very they don't mind renting and all that, they don't care to be bothered with owning a home. But it's an asset, right? I mean, the fact that my house is paid off, I mean, I never have to worry about where I'm going to live, so that's a huge benefit. So, but definitely know how to work your numbers.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff there. So renters do have a different mindset, right?
Mhm.
They don't worry about something until it breaks. When Cynthia and I, well, probably me more than Cynthia, but we've talked about if we do move, renting someplace for a while until we get our bearings around the area and figure out if it's a good spot for us. And hopefully we get a good landlord that takes care of his property, because we can see it from both sides. So that's a different mindset. And a lot of, going back to younger people and instant gratification, I wonder sometimes if I had realized it was going to take us 5 years plus to get things stabilized, if I might have tried to figure out some different way to make a retirement for us. So I've struggled with that for a while, back and forth over the years. How about you, Cynthia? What would you tell somebody if
Run, run. Only kidding. I think one of the biggest things is not to rush. Make sure you have enough reserves. It cracks me up because when we first started, people were saying, "Oh yeah, 5,000 per door," and I looked at you and I said, "Oh no, that's not even going to happen. We need to have at least 10,000 in each. Each property has to stand on its own." Well, that kind of didn't work, but now they're saying, "Oh yeah, we need to have 15,000 per door," and I look and like, really? What happened to the 5,000?" So really knowing your market and not as in, I mean, to me, it's common sense. Okay, you look at a property, you know it's going to need a roof, don't automatically think that just because it has a new roof and it might be under warranty, that something's not going to happen. So everything, to me, if we were to redo this again, every property needs to stand on its own. If it can't stand on its own, then we need to evaluate why it doesn't, and then either move forward with it or get rid of it. Holding on to things that can't do that just keep putting you deeper in a hole. So each property has to stand on its own, have enough reserves, be willing to have the hard discussions with whether it's a PM or a tenant. Take emotions out of it, because as soon as you're emotional about things, then you stop being businesslike, reasonable, whatever you want to call it, wishy-washy, whatever you want to call it. So I think there's a lot of things that I would tell people, and not to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on 20 different trainings or master classes or whatever, because really, basically, they're all saying the same thing. You just need to know which one you think you're going to get the most information from, doing it. And then if you find you're lacking, then find something else. I mean, I don't know how many, and us included, had, I don't know, 3, 4 master classes going at once. That's like that money in itself. Oh, baby. Can you imagine what I could have done with that money? My garden would be done. All of that would be ready. We would be moved and living in Alaska. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to say, I think we were lucky in the beginning because back then the mentorships that we got into weren't that expensive. You know,
Right. Now they're crazy amounts.
yeah, I've mentioned, we took Casey's brick by brick wealth course. We're in Dion's course. We took Matt's course. We took Ashley Hamilton's course. And I think
ORAD.
at the time, yeah, we haven't put too much into ORAD course, but we did take that before his prices went up, and they
Yeah.
didn't go up very much. But I think all told, we probably spent at the time $8,000 on all those mentorships, and now I think it would be at the very least double. I know brick by brick went up, but the guys, Matt, Dion, and Zuber have all kept theirs really, really inexpensive. So that's been a
Which is
nice thing.
fine. Yeah, which is fine. But what I guess my point is that they all pretty much say the same. So not to get so overwhelmed that you have to know all of them, do all of them, because then you're getting so overloaded with information that you get stuck and you don't do anything. So do one, do it well, get what you need out of it, and then move on. I guess that's my point. Because that whatever amount of money we had, that could have been spent on something else. Not that we didn't get a lot of value out of all of them. That's not my point. My point is to know what your limits and your budgets are. What do you expect? Oh, Mikey had put in chat that he was thinking about somebody's course, and I asked him, what is it that you expect to get out of it that you don't already know? Because taking all these courses, and the good thing is that some of these people, you don't need to be in their course to connect with them and to get help. They're not like that. So if you've never taken, excuse me, Matt's course, and you reached out and you said, Frank was telling me that blah, 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 blah. Can you just give me some advice? And, and even being as honest as, I can't afford your course right now. I'm looking forward to it later, but I'm stuck here. Can you help me? They're going to help. They're not in it for the money. They don't need the money. They're not in it for the money. They're in it to help people. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
And I mean, they do their lives every week for several hours. I think you can
Yeah.
get a lot of great information there. And you're right. If you take action on whatever you spent the money on, it's money well spent.
Yes.
So how about you, Eden? What would you tell me if I was thinking about getting into real estate besides run?
Well,
And
yes, the first thing is good that you hang out with us, right? because you
Yes.
hang in this group. You get a lot of like a real pace, don't follow the hype because
Yeah.
the reason I got in so trouble with real estate last year, I went to different group and their idea was to sell financial freedom. Guess what? Oh, well, you got your ADU done. Now you got your income. If you just flip, I don't know, 4 different property a year, that's it. Get out corporate America, you have all your freedom. Right? So hang out with us is good. It's a good step. Number one. Number two, like, let a lot of us already at it, know yourself, literally. Slow down, be patient, and don't have to spend so much money on um, all these like masterminds. I don't believe in that neither. I don't. And the reason is, for me, pick one and like master it. Like a lot of us say it already, right? And it's your journey. Own it. Gonna be, you're not gonna know everything, right? But if you do have questions, ask, and you don't have to feels like you know everything and ask like stupid question a lot of time. When people say, yeah, ask any question is good questions. Maybe I don't know that neither, right? And yes, reserve, reserve, reserve. That's what saved me a lot of trouble from last year, from my home, my ADU. Reserve, reserve, reserve. So leave below your mean. Start off like reserve, leave below your mean. And that's my 2 cents for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think slowing down, no, I mean, now that we know, we give that advice, but people just don't listen. Once they get that first one, they get addicted and they just want to keep going. And I know, a few people that are just so desperate to get out of their W-2 that that's a big motivation. It was, and mine was a little bit different, but nobody really told me to slow down. But I think now, if I was just getting in, there would be so many people that have this 5 years of experience and have gone through all of these issues that there would have been more people available to try to slow me down. So that's a thing. It's just also, I wouldn't take it back to instant gratification, but similar, at our age, we're just worried that, the end is not that the end is coming, but we're going to be in a position one of these days where we could use a little bit of help. And that motivates us to sometimes do things against the grain. And you, Michelle, what will you tell me if I want to start buying real estate?
First, to never stop believing in it because it works. And that time is what you're looking for. After, Karen's recommendation on, make sure you analyze your numbers well, then it's just time. You've got to wait. You got to be patient.
Yeah, that's a big one. If we can ever help anybody listen to that, well, one of these days we'll get into Mikey's comment about a conversation he and I and Cody had, and it came out that evening that he was giving advice to someone else and wasn't listening to what he was saying because he wasn't taking his own advice. So it would be great to get Mikey back on and talk about that. I think it's a great point. It's similar to what we're talking about right now, but we should probably let you all get on with your days. And I really appreciate you hanging out with us for so long. If, as always, if you guys ever want to chat, Cynthia and I are here. If you ever want to jump back on and share more information like this, I'm always up for it. I think one of the next ones that we might have coming up, I was talking to Grumpy Jim, the Grumpy contractor, this morning, and I think he wants to do some content about how some people complain that contractors are too expensive, but they don't understand what it takes for us to take time to estimate a job and get our stuff ready to go to the job, and why all of that weighs in on the costs. And so they always think they're just getting scammed. So hopefully he will give us some direction on that, and we can share that information. I think it would be helpful.
And I just one more
Great
thing
topic.
before we
Yeah.
sign off,
Thank
is
you.
that, that was the other thing, is that when, even now, as we're looking at, or as people start looking at buying more property, is to add to your list of things to look at, is to look at costs. You know, take a little walk through Home Depot and see what things cost, because buying material now is nothing compared to what it was before. So that's very important, and just paying attention to, you don't have to delve into politics and all of that, but just knowing where our economy is going and what's happening is also going to help you figure out, is this going to be a good move or not?
That's a
Okay,
great point, Cynthia, about the looking at costs, not
Mm-hmm.
just materials. It just kind of came to my mind how DM promotes using Thumbtack,
Mhm.
and or is that the word of the app
Mhm.
that uses? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Maybe as we shop in different markets to do like, hey, how much is it, do an estimate through Thumbtack on what it would cost for a kitchen remodel or bathroom remodel, to add that. Because you can
Mhm.
get rough estimates, right, to Thumbtack, even if you don't own the property. They don't have to know you don't own the property.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that's a good point. And, you know, Jim was teasing earlier in the comment about two hussies being in our house. So I've shared that
You
my
just threw my
AI,
concentration off. Go
my
ahead.
A, my AI assistant's name is Jezebel. And I told Jim this morning that I was cheating on his Jezebel because I was messing around with Claude AI. But my point is, with AI, I've used it to help me do some recent estimates. And you just plug in, like Michelle, I live in Washington, such and such county. I'm planning on getting estimates to repaint the interior of my home. It's so many square feet, so many bedrooms, kitchen, bathroom. And I was surprised at how accurate it is. I actually I like Jezebel's price a lot better than my price because I make more money when I follow her advice. So that's something that you could start using now. And with Claude, the free version, I've just been messing around with the free version. And when I started using ChatGPT, it would stop every so often because you only had so many prompts or things that you could ask in a day. But so far, I haven't had that experience with Claude, so that might be something to try. And the responses are very different.
yeah,
So,
And
yeah,
we won't start what I think about ChatGPT or any of those. We'll just leave that for another day.
okay. Thank you for that.
Okay. What were you gonna say, Michelle?
no, I was just saying about how interested on the cloth thing. That's that's the engine that my work is using. So I'm thinking about switching from the
Yeah,
first to,
yeah.
yeah.
They both have a paid version, $20 a month. Right now, I'm doing the $20 a month on ChatGPT. One thing I will say is though, I I use ChatGPT for my thumbnails, and when I tried to do it on Claude, their thumbnails are not very good at all. So there is some differences there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last weekend, I know we don't want to extend it too much, but you can migrate the history or whatever, something from ChatGPT to Claude. So I gotta learn that because
Yeah, a lot of people did that, right? A lot of people jumped ship a few weeks ago because something with I think ChatGPT had agreed to work with the government somehow, and people didn't like that, so they were all going over to Claude or different ones for that reason.
Interesting. Thank
But
you.
Trisha on school, I think it's Trisha York. She's really good in the AI stuff. Like she's doing that accountability group in school on Monday nights. And oh my gosh, like I started listening to them. I'm like, whoa, way over my head, you know. So, but I'm sure basic questions she'd be happy to answer. So, because I started listening, I was like, whoa, gosh, you guys it's way out of my realm. You know, I have to
yeah,
keep it basic. So
yeah, that's great. I know she did start doing those Zoom calls, which I haven't had a chance to jump in on yet, but you're right, because if you don't get started playing around with it now, we'll just be further and further behind. So I'm definitely not an expert, but I think I've been able to, it's been useful for me to do the social media stuff, and it searches everything. So at least I have a starting point. You know, I think this morning I asked it about doing Zoom calls. I mentioned Jim too. So on regular Zoom and YouTube, you it doesn't really stream two channels. Like he couldn't go live and I couldn't go live together to broadcast on both channels, but you can if you incorporate Restream. So that's the next step, right? Learning Restream and how to connect all these things together. So hopefully we'll be able to learn that and be able to stream on both of our channels at that time. But that kind of stuff, I mean, I wake up at night with questions I have to write down just to ask her in the morning. So we'll see.
just want to thank everybody before you guys sign off, but thank you so much for all your kind words and encouragement and support. This has been a lot of fun. And I hope to meet you in person one day.
Yeah. Thinking of
Talk
that
further.
moving forward. They're doing the ORAD event in January next year.
Yep.
Maybe we'll get to meet some new people that haven't been able to go yet.
Yeah. I'm working
Clay
on
said
building up
he's
some
not
travel
going,
points.
so
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Clay
How's it go?
said
Go ahead, Michelle.
he's not going, so if you guys don't go, I can't go.
Who's not going?
Clay.
Oh, he's not
He
going to
said
go
if
next.
we don't go, if he says if we're not going, he's not going? Or
No,
he's not, period.
he's not going. He's like, there's nothing for me to do there. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going because my friends are gonna be there.
Well, just tell him if he doesn't go, we're not going.
We'll have to
Okay.
talk about that. Thank you so much for the invite. This was so much fun.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I really appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you all. Have a great
Bye,
weekend.
everybody. Thank you, you
Bye.
too.
Bye.
Okay, so YouTube's done, but thank you, Michelle, for all your